Tom Homan was investigated for accepting $50,000 from undercover FBI agents. Trump's DOJ shut it down in his first term. The FBI and justice officials closed the investigation, which a Justice Department appointee had called a, quote, deep state probe in early 2025. In an undercover operation last year, the reporters here are Carol Lenig and Ken Delanian, I think is how you pronounce them. This is from MSNBC. In an undercover operation last year, the FBI recorded Tom Homan, now the White House border czar, accepting $50,000 in cash after indicating he would help the agents who were posing as business executives win government contracts in a second Trump administration, according to multiple people familiar with the probe and internal documents reviewed by MSNBC. Man, this would be like the story at any other time. The FBI and the Justice Department planned to wait to see whether Homan would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official. But the case indefinitely stalled soon after Donald Trump became president again in January, according to 6 sources familiar with the matter. In recent weeks, Trump appointees officially closed the investigation after FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update on the case, 2 of the people said. It's unclear what reasons FBI and Justice Department officials gave for shutting down the investigation, but the Trump Justice Department appointee called the case a, quote, deep state probe in early 2025, and no further investigative steps were taken, the sources say. The federal investigation was launched in western Texas in the summer of 2024 after a subject in a separate investigation claimed Homan was soliciting payments in exchange for awarding contracts should Trump win the presidential election, according to an internal Justice Department summary of the probe reviewed by MSNBC and people familiar with the case. The U.S. Attorney's Office in the Western District of Texas, working with the FBI, asked the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section to join its ongoing probe into the border czar and former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement Tom Homan and others based on evidence of payment from FBI undercover agents in exchange for facilitating future contracts related to border enforcement. Homan, who served as acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement early in Trump's first term, openly claimed during the 2024 campaign that he would play a prominent role in carrying out Trump's promised mass deportations. Asked for comment about MSNBC's exclusive reporting, the White House, the Justice Department, and the FBI dismissed the investigation as politically motivated and baseless, of course. In a statement provided to MSNBC, FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said, "This matter originated under the previous administration and was subjected to a full review by FBI agents and Justice Department prosecutors." Sure. They found no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. The Justice Department's resources must remain focused on real threats to the American people, not baseless investigations. As a result, the investigation has been closed. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson slammed the probe as a blatantly political investigation which found no evidence of illegal activity, and yet another example of how the Biden Department of Justice was using its resources to target President Trump's allies rather than investigate real criminals and the millions of illegal aliens who flooded the country. In their words, not mine. Tom Homan has not been involved with any contract award decisions. He is a career law enforcement officer and lifelong public service who is doing a phenomenal job on behalf of President Trump and the country, she added on behalf of Homan, a senior White House employee. Homan did not reply for requests for comment. Undercover FBI agents posing as contractors communicated them and met several times last summer with a business colleague who introduced them to Homan and with Homan himself, who indicated he would facilitate securing contracts for them in exchange for money once he was in office, according to documents and the people familiar with the case. On September 20th, 2024, with hidden cameras recording the scene at a meeting spot in Texas, Homan accepted $50,000 in bills, according to an internal summary of the case and sources. FBI agents and Justice Department prosecutors took no further investigative steps in the final months of 2024, the people said, and expected to keep monitoring Homan to determine if he landed an official role and would make good on steering contracts in a future Trump administration. When special agents in Texas began probing the subject's claim that Homan was soliciting bribes, the White House border czar, 63, was president and owner of a private consulting business that said it could help companies in the border security industry win government contracts. Homan often accompanied Trump on the campaign trail in 2023 and 2024, and for months before the presidential election, publicly touted that he expected to oversee implementation of Trump's immigration policies. Trump comes back in January. I'll be on his heels coming back, and I will run the biggest deportation operation in the country's ever seen, Homan said at the National Conservatism Conference in July of 2024. Several FBI and Justice Department's officials believed that they had a strong criminal case against Homan for conspiracy to commit bribery based on recording him accepting cash and his apparent, well, they have a recording, wow, and his apparent promise to assist with contracts, according to 4 people familiar with the probe. God, I hope that audio comes out. Homan could have been charged with a crime then, legal experts say, but his case was unusual. He was not a public official, and Trump was not president at the time. He accepted money in the FBI's undercover sting, so his actions didn't clearly fit under a standard bribery charge. Top officials privately debated, so they were just waiting for him to come back. Top officials privately debated the possible charges given Homan's status at the time. People familiar with the case said, but several concluded it would be better for the investigation to continue to monitor his actions once he was back in public office. According to a document reviewed by MSNBC, Justice officials were eyeing 4 potential criminal charges in his case: conspiracy, bribery, and 2 kinds of fraud. MSNBC asked legal experts about the hypothetical situation similar to the Homan probe, a hypothetical situation. They said a person who promises to influence federal contracts when they become a public official can't be charged under the federal bribery statutes until they are named or appointed to such a post. If the person did get the administration job and then reaffirmed his promise and communicated in some way about his plan to deliver on his agreement, investigators could make a strong bribery case. Well, they can't now. They're throwing it out. It is still a crime, however, for anyone to seek money to improperly influence federal contracts. There you go, the legal expert said. Whether they are a public official or not, and whether they even delivered on their promise or not. People in this category would be charged with conspiracy or fraud, they said. And who knows? I mean, how is anybody going to press them on this, right? It would maybe have to happen on a state level, but I don't know how that would work. If someone who is not yet a public official but expects to be takes bribes in exchange for agreeing to take official acts after they are appointed, they can't be charged with bribery, says Randall Eliason, a former chief of public corruption prosecutions in the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. and former white-collar law professor. That was my favorite law school course, by the way. That was a great course. But they can be charged with conspiracy to commit bribery. In a conspiracy charge, the crime is the agreement to commit a criminal act in the future. On November 11, 2024, President Trump announced he would make Homan his border czar, a White House advisor role, which, unlike the job of Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, did not require Senate confirmation or an extensive FBI background check. Convenient. Several FBI and Justice Department officials believed Homan's acceptance of the cash provided strong evidence that they should continue to pursue after Homan took public office. The Public Integrity Section, a squad of seasoned public corruption prosecutors, typically assigned to sensitive cases involving elected and other high-profile figures, agreed to join the case in late November 2024, according to documents reviewed by MSNBC. Shortly after Trump's inauguration, however, in either late January or February 2025, former acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove was briefed on the case and told Justice Department officials he did not support the investigation, according to people familiar with the case. Around the same time, the Public Integrity Section was battling with Bove over his demand that they dismiss a bribery case against New York Mayor Eric Adams. The section supervisors, who would resign one by one in February rather than agree to dismiss the Adams case, had assigned a top supervisor to help oversee the Homan case with federal prosecutors in the Western District of Texas, where the investigation began, two people said. This is wildly corrupt. Unbelievable. Not that we're surprised, of course, but any other time, my God. Homan had spent 3 decades in federal border protection and immigration enforcement. A former police officer from upstate New York, Homan had started work as a Border Patrol agent in the 1980s and later promoted to several supervisory roles. In 2013, President Barack Obama elevated Homan to serve as head of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement's deportation branch. Not great, but I'm sure he didn't know him as well then. When Trump was first elected president in 2017, he appointed Homan as acting head of ICE. In that role, Homan pushed the controversial zero-tolerance policy for immigrants seeking to cross the border, resulting in the separation of thousands of migrant children from their parents and family members. He just loves separating kids from their parents, doesn't he? Homan's nomination to become the permanent ICE director stalled in the Senate amid widespread criticism over the administration's family separation policies and Senate Democrats' opposition to his confirmation. Well, he doesn't have to worry about that now. After his lengthy career in government service, Homan announced in April 2018 he would retire. Homan then launched his consulting firm, Homeland Strategic Consulting, which is sadly very normal for these guys to do when they retire. Its website boasted of its work with the with the Departments of Homeland Security, Defense, Justice, and others. We have a proven track record of opening doors and bringing successful relationships to our clients, resulting in tens of millions of dollars of federal contracts to private companies. During the Biden administration, as Trump prepared to run again for president, Homan remained close to Trump and his advisors, working as a Fox News contributor and with the Heritage Foundation, as well as contributing to the wonderful Project 2025. When Homan became Trump's top border official in 2025, his consulting work and financial ties to border security and immigration-related contractors spurred questions from Democrats in Congress about his potential conflicts of interest. Many expected Homan, a trusted Trump ally, to serve if Trump were reelected in 2024. In a December 2023 interview on the Slain Conservative Activists podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show, Homan promised he'd be pushing a robust removal of immigrants when Trump was reelected. We're going to have the biggest deportation operation this country has ever seen, Homan told Benny Johnson, a right-wing commentator and host on the show, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So this guy, corrupt as the rest of this administration, gets $50,000 for promising contracts with Trump, federal contracts with Trump. One of the most corrupt things you can possibly do in government. And this guy has the gall to then go and pull parents from their children, sending them to concentration camps, third countries, horrible conditions, and say that they're lawbreakers, say that they're illegal. This is just sickening, absolutely sickening. Again, we knew stuff like this was happening, but when we hear it, we still got to talk about it, and it's still gross. As Borders Are, you are uniquely positioned to help your former business client reap a huge windfall from the Trump administration's spending on immigration enforcement.